What's up, guys? You're back here for another episode of Brockway's Vinyl Bites. I'm Cody Brockway. We got it's more than an episode. It's another epic live stream. Usually you see these happen on Saturdays, but due to specific reasons, we postponed to Monday, and that is okay. You're all here ready to rock with us. And yeah, we've already got a couple people watching. So let's do a quick introduction and see what's up with everyone in the panel, shall we? So we got Wayne. How you doing, Wayne?
Not bad. Just posted my video today, my first time reaction hearing Home by the Sea by Genesis. So have that up on the channel. And just having a great time here to discuss my all-time favorite band, Pink Floyd.
Well, I'm really interested to see that Genesis one, because that's a longtime favorite song of mine, and I'm sure Matt and Steve and probably the folks at Spin in Prague as well. So what channel did you put that to? Did you put it to a Pocket Full of Heap or Prisms of Prague?
Pocket Full of Heap. Pretty much all my reactions are on a Pocket Full of Heap. I kind of keep Prisms of Prague separate.
Cool.
From doing that.
All right, good to know. So Spin in Prague, we've got Tara and Dermot in the house. It's such a pleasure to have you guys here. I love what you guys do. I love your dynamic.
Thank you.
Thrilled to be here, Cody. Great to be here with you.
You guys have an awesome dynamic on your channel. I love what you do. I love that you guys just did the video about the Hammond organ players. I love that.
Yeah,
so what's
our top 10 guitarists today, so that'll be going up soon.
Yeah,
and we hope we don't get killed for that. So yeah, we will be filming a video tomorrow that'll be a little different. It's like a vlog of us going to our vinyl pusher, as we call them, our record shop. So yeah, we're looking forward to that because record shops are few and far between in Ireland.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna interview the guy that owns the shop and talk to him about music and what it means to him, and we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, brilliant.
That is spectacular. I love that video idea. I can't wait to see that. So if you guys are watching this and you haven't subscribed to Spin in Prague, I highly recommend you do it right now.
Thank you.
So Uncle Steve and Matt Brown, I know you guys don't have YouTube channels, but what have you guys been up to? I know we've been working the deep nuggets with some surprises that's we're going to be announcing here very soon, which we can't, got to be tight-lipped a little bit about at the moment. But
yeah, I was about to say, how much can we say?
We really can't say anything.
I thought we were still in classified mode, so okay, that's fine.
We kind of are. I kind of let it out of the bag a little bit on a different channel, but for here we'll keep it under wraps for another probably 2 weeks or so.
Fair enough.
But the guys there, Tara and Dermot know what's up. Wayne know what's up. We all know what's up. We know what's going on. Some surprises coming here on Brockway's Vinyl Bites very soon. So stay tuned to hear what those are about.
We know something that other people don't. I don't like being that person.
Stop kind of outed you last night on the Frog stream, didn't he?
Well, no, it's cool. It's cool. I'm grateful that he did that. That was great. That was awesome.
To answer your question, I'm fine, and I'm just kind of recuperating from a very nice weekend. My girlfriend and I went up to San Francisco. I had a show up there with a Phil Collins / Genesis tribute band, and so if I'm not as animated as normal, that would explain why.
It's okay. It's okay. What about you, Uncle Steve?
Well, I'm waiting for Matt to get up and dance around for us.
I'm afraid I can't. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm afraid I can't do that.
How you doing, Cody? Hello, everybody else. And, hello to everybody out there watching. I'm Uncle Steve, one of the DJs from Deep Nuggets Radio, and everything's good. Everything's good. Here.
That's awesome. Yes.
Excited to discuss today's topic, which is of a pink nature.
Yes, they are of a Pink Floyd nature.
Here's the lanyard I got when I went to the Pink Floyd exhibition in Toronto.
All right.
Oh, very nice.
Cool.
Who's that?
The poster on the wall behind me. Poster on the wall behind me. I actually picked up at the exhibition when it came through Los Angeles.
Oh, there you go. I love that.
It's very cool. Yeah.
God, we get no exhibitions here in Ireland.
Well,
do
we
we?
went
Oh,
to
sorry. I know. I wish
That was a long time ago, yeah.
I wish this thing would have come everywhere. It was really amazing.
Nice.
It was awesome. It was totally great. And so what we're doing here today is we are talking about, well, we're going to go through the entire Pink Floyd discography is what we're going to do here today. So we're going
Bring
to
it on.
like we got
All
everything.
5 albums, right?
All 5 albums. Oh
All
yeah,
5
yeah.
albums.
We got,
We'll be done in about 10 minutes, right?
I left off the live albums, even though I'm obviously wearing the Pulse shirt. But I left off
There you
I
go.
left off the live albums. We got a couple people in the comments here. We got Rich. I'm so sorry if I say his last name incorrectly. It's Rich Nerez or Nare. Hi, Rich. We've also got Mr. Ian
Hey, Rich.
LaBelle, and
Yeah.
more people joining by the second.
Hello, everyone.
We'll say hi as more people join. I am here. Pink Floyd rocks. You are damn right they do. And so let's just get right into the first album.
Cody,
Yes, sir.
can I do the whole show in this voice?
Sure.
Get over here.
Whatever you want to do, man.
I'm
Go for
kidding, guys.
it. All right, we got the Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
Oh.
Wayne, do you want to go first? So we'll go Wayne.
Sure.
We'll go Wayne, Spin in Prague, Steve, Matt, then me, and so on and so forth. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
All right, Wayne, take us away.
So this album for me, I kind of came into this album about halfway through discovering Pink Floyd. And it's very much an album unlike a lot of their other ones. And at first I really didn't like it, but the more and more I dug into it, the more I actually really started to like this. And it's been one of those albums that's kind of crept up the rankings for me. Whether it starts with the great Astronomy Domine to start off the album. But it always felt to me like it's an album fighting itself. Like, does it want to be poppy? Does it want to be experimental? Kind of felt like there was 2 different visions, and at least knowing the story of Sid afterwards, it makes sense
Yeah.
to why that is. And yeah, but there is some really good songs on here. Astronomy Domine, Lucifer Sam is a great song.
Yep.
Bike is another one I like, kind of quirky. Love the sound collage at the end.
Yeah.
And it's just a really great
It is a great album.
album.
Do you have any love for Take
I
Up
think
by
I'll be the scarecrow today.
yeah. Poor Sid Barrett. You know, he got involved with some certain chemicals and things that we won't talk too much about here. But it basically just kind of after he started getting heavy into a certain lifestyle, he kind of just went down the toilet mentally, of course, for lack of a better term. But really sad to see that, because he was one talented guy. You know, he wrote really cool songs like Bike, you said too, right? And what about Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk?
I will say one thing about Sid. He was really interesting in the fact when all the guys were playing through Big Sack Marshalls and that, he was playing pretty much through what are they? Kind of like old country and western amps.
Yeah.
With the delay, and you hear it on Astronomy Domine, and it's really an interesting sound. But
awesome, yeah. So there we go. All right, thank you, Wayne, for your commentary. Now we got the folks at Spin in Prague. We got Tara and Dermot. What do you guys think about this album?
Take it away, Dad.
1967, very interesting year, and it's kind of very much of its time. Wayne, perfect what you said about it kind of seeming like different albums fighting with each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite know what it wants to be. I think it's sitting within that kind of psychedelic kind of feel to it. And it's a lot of psychedelia would come from West Coast America, but this is a kind of British take on psychedelia. And it also introduces this kind of whimsical Englishness, this feeling of the kind of countryside and the scarecrow and this sort of thing, and the crossing streams and water and constables haywaying and everything like this. You start to get these pictures in your head with this thing. That's where I would find this album interesting and influential, rather than a lot of the kind of instrumental side of it. It's kind of the whimsy that it brings up, so yeah, I mean, it's they kind of take a little bit of a turn after this, and I think they turned in a right direction, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's the kind of big what might have been. I mean, what might have been if Barrett stayed there, and where would they have gone after that if he'd have stayed in control? So yeah. It opens a lot of questions, really.
I have to agree with Ian too. Interstellar Overdrive is definitely my favorite of it.
Yeah, Ian also says the Beatles had an influence on everyone, because Rich says the Beatles had an influence on Pink Floyd. Yeah, we love the Beatles here.
Well, they were actually recording this in Abbey Road the same time the Beatles were doing Sgt. Pepper. And Paul McCartney had an anecdote where he said that he used to meet them going in to record the album, and they were all going in separately. And he said to them, how do you record an album when you all go into the studio separately? To Nick Mason, and he turned to him and he said, well, I don't know how you record it when you all go in together. So but yeah, a very interesting album. It starts the ball rolling, really, I think. And it's that kind of English pastoral whimsical side to it that I think becomes the influence on progressive rock as we move forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. And actually we cover some of that in my video that I did about a couple of days ago. What is prog rock? There's lots of people who have asked me, what is it? How do I define it? What is it? So as a sort of a counterpoint to that, if anyone watching this is wondering how could you define prog rock, go check out that video. Tara, what do you think of this album?
The exact same as Dad. I think it's incredibly influential. And I have to say, when you said the Beatles influenced everyone, look at them haircuts. They were definitely influenced by the Beatles. I don't have much more to say. Dad hit the nail on the head. Look.
Ian says, what about Arnold Lane? So that is a great song. It's not on this album, though. I think it was on the Relics album.
Yeah.
It might have been on the U.S. version of the album. I know that the U.S. version that was released,
See Emily Play, I think, was on the U.S.
Yeah, Emily. That's right. It was Emily. It wasn't Arnold Lane that was on there. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. So now we go on to Uncle Steve. What do you think about this album, man?
I like that term, whimsical. I remember when back in the day when I first heard the Sgt. Pepper's album.
Oh, there you
pretty
go.
much around the same time, the Pink Floyd album came out, and it was really, really strange. I was kind of a young kid then, maybe 13, 14 years old, and very much into the Beatles. This new album, new sound came out, and it was hard for me to wrap my head around this Pink Floyd. They were like the term whimsical, but yet it was, gosh, I'm trying to think of the word for it. It was hard for me to get into.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't until later before I realized, and understood what they were trying to do. And before that.
Okay. That's getting ahead of ourselves anyway.
Yeah, that's getting way ahead. We still got some more stuff to do, But I did hear them, and there was I did like Astronomy and Lucifer. They were pretty cool songs and stuff. The rest of the album, I maybe because of my age, I was too young to understand what they were trying to do. And because I was so much into the Beatles and the Doors and, all of the groups from the mid to late 60s that were out there, that, I just kind of, let them go and didn't revisit them for quite a few years later.
Yeah. So this is not among. So in hindsight, this is still not really among one of your favorite albums.
It's a good album, not nearly my favorite Pink Floyd album.
Same. So, Mr. Matt, what do you think about this album?
Well, this might give you an idea how I feel about it. I have a stereo English copy and a mono reissue.
Hey, those mono reissues are cool. I should.
They are very,
one
very
of those.
Yeah, they're very, very good. I did like Wayne. I didn't get into this album until later, and I think that makes sense given our when we showed up on the planet. But and I know I initially found it really like an alien world. Like, what is this? But it had something about it that kept drawing me back in, and it's actually one of my favorite Floyd records now. It definitely was a grower, and I like that mixture of kind of Wind in the Willows, sort of almost like childlike, innocent storybook lyrics set against this very weird music,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the fact that we have the space songs next to the things like Matilda Mother and stuff like that. And it's an album I tend to play in its entirety. I don't usually separate tracks out. It just because it's so unique in their catalog. So I mean, that it's definitely a favorite of mine.
Awesome, love it. Yeah, it's I like it too. I remember, getting into Pink Floyd like when I was a kid. My dad showed me the Wall film, the movie, right, and that was the moment. The movie kind of scared me enough to love the band, and then I went.
It's pretty freaky in places, yeah.
I was like 10 years old, and my dad's like, I was reading the back of the DVD, and he's like, "You want to watch it?" And so we put it on, and it freaked me out in a good way because now we're here talking about it, right? But yeah. So then I would go back, even just as a kid, and I'd read all up about Syd Barrett and his life, and his exit from Pink Floyd and all this stuff. But then I'm hearing this music, and it's good songs. I still like to this day. I don't play this one that often, but every once in a while I do come back to it and go, oh, this is really interesting. Astronomy Domine. I actually love this is probably weird, but I love the Pulse live version of that. That comes just after Shine On You Crazy Diamond on the live record.
It was great.
I really like this Power Talk H. Take up thy stethoscope and walk. That's iconic to me. But Bike, again, not my favorite album, but every once in a while when you're just kind of feeling a little strange, you kind of come back to this and go, oh yeah, this is not strange, like strange in a good way. Like you're feeling like you want to hear something that's a little out of left field. You come back to this and go, oh yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah,
I'd also add to that probably this is Pink Floyd's probably most jazziest album they did, and also you hear elements taken from this that would later appear on like King Crimson records. You can see the Robert Fripp, how influenced he was by some of this.
Big influence, absolutely. But you better strap your seatbelts on because it's actually about to get weirder.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got the second album in the Floyd canon. We've got A Saucer Full of Secrets. I really like this album. More on that later. Wayne, what do you think of this album?
I really like this album. I think this album at times I like more than the original. I think it's a darker album, much so where Nick Mason throughout this through songs, it feels more like he's drumming around riffs and stuff and just gives them this ominous feel. But Let There Be More Light is a great opener. I like it for them. I know Cody, you're a Metallica fan. Cliff Burton has said that I think he was talking about Master of Puppets opening riff was inspired actually by Pink Floyd, and I think it's by the riff in this song.
I can hear that actually now that you make the connection. I can I didn't put two and two together before, but now I can kind of see where there might be some influence. That's a cool connection there.
Yeah, and Remember a Day is a great kind of weird. It's like a pop song, but with like a very jazzy drumming in it.
Hey,
Set the
Matt.
Controls for the Heart of the Sun is iconic. Like it's probably, in my opinion, that's my favorite song off the record.
Hey, Matt, he mentioned "Remember a Day." Isn't that your promo song on Deep Nuggets?
Yeah, I actually used part of the about a 30-second snippet of the ending of that song for my promo.
Oh, perfect.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wayne, do you have any more commentary on this album?
Yeah. You can tell right away there's something different when Gilmour joined the band. You can tell musically it opened them up to trying new things, experimenting. Saucer Full of Secrets. Nick Mason's drumming on that is absolutely phenomenal. Like I love that song.
Live at Pompeii.
Yeah, it's really good.
It is great.
But Jug Band Blues, the last Barrett track, kind of does put the finale on the Barrett era by pretty much mentioning that for making it clear that I'm not here, and then finding out later that one day they just didn't pick him up for a gig and just left him and continued on as a four-piece. So
yeah, absolutely. It is kind of that the lyrics in this song are quite sad. Actually, it's over kind of a happy-ish melody, but it's a pretty sad tune if you listen to the words. So the Spinnin' Prog fam, what do you guys have to say about this?
I have a very particular history with this album. I absolutely love it, and it's been something that's been part of my life for a long time. I was about 13 when The Wall came out, or 12 or 13 or something like that. And it was, I remember Another Break in the Wall was #1 in the charts and all sorts of things. And I went up to a local radio station that were throwing out a load of vinyl. And they gave me a load of it for nothing. Well, they gave me a few of them, which
5%
included
for nothing.
Yeah, included this. This is a 1968 mono pressing of Saucer Full of Secrets. So
wow.
I brought this thing home, but I mean that meant nothing to me as at the age I was at, and I brought it home, and at the time now I'd never heard anything like this. I'd heard what was pop music on the radio or rock music on the radio, and I put this thing on, and it just opened another universe to me. It was just incredible. And I think from the opening, you're right, Wayne, Let There Be More Light, that bass line at the start of that is just incredible. And it leads you down this rabbit hole into this album. Remember a Day, I find cinematic. I can picture things. I'd say the same with Seesaw. It kind of reminds me of black and white English film from that era. There's that feel to it. It just evokes that in my mind. Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, absolutely amazing, just incredible. The atmosphere of it, this kind of brooding doom that's going on with the thing. Corporal Clegg, again, it's kind of that cinematic thing again, like it's storytelling. You notice here too, the band are moving away. Whatever you say about the first album, there's still a lot of verses and choruses in it. But here they're starting to deconstruct the music, and they're starting to break it down into something else. This is a very important album as far as I'm concerned. Saucer Full of Secrets itself, fantastic. I love it. I remember just trying to get my head around what the hell these guys were doing with this. So every time I listen to this, it's the 13-year-old me trying to understand it is still there.
I love it.
I remember then a friend of mine had read, there was a publication there at the time, The History of Rock, that you could buy weekly and could build up into this big encyclopedia of rock music. And he'd read the one on Pink Floyd. And I remember he came around, he saw Sid Barrett's name in it, and he'd read about Sid and his mental problems and all the drugs and everything that he was involved with. And then he said, oh my God, he said, Sid Barrett, he was nuts and he was this and he was that. So, of course, me as a young lad at that time, I had to find out more. And my relationship with Pink Floyd was very much about the era of Pink Floyd, not what was kind of contemporaneously happening with me, you know? So it was very much, I started Relics after this and then went into all the Piper at the Gates of Dawn and everything. So that's where I kind of sit with Pink Floyd. But this album actually means an awful lot to me. It's a very important album to me. I think it's very important for the evolution of progressive rock music and space rock, for that matter. Okay.
Absolutely well said, my friend. Well put. Well put. I loved that.
Yeah. And I think it was Hypnosis's first cover as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
there, he's
all right.
spot on.
Yeah.
One of my earliest memories is I was very, very young. I walked into the living room and Dad had Live at Pompeii on the television. I remember seeing all the visuals on the telly and I was like, whoa, what's this? And I heard Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun and I was hooked. Now, it was only recently that I revisited this album and actually listened to it the whole way through, because I would have been more around Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall as I was growing up. I was into all that because it was being re-released and stuff. And oh my God, I listened to it about a month or two ago and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I was looking at him, I was going, wow, I feel like I kind of prefer this to Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall. I don't know what it is, just that earlier sound of Pink Floyd. I really, really like it.
And Tara, I have to ask you, I think you're around my age group. How old are you, Tara?
24.
I'm 25, so there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. That's awesome. I love I love to see younger people like us who are into this music, you know, because it's like this stuff really lives on for generations and generations. This album is over 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, people
new to us, which is absolutely fantastic, like, you know.
Yeah,
exactly.
But a lot of these albums are the works of art of that period of the 20th century. They were pieces of art that you could own and bring to your home, which is why I love the vinyl and interacting with the vinyl, because that's the artifact, that's the piece of art that you bring home, put on your stereo, and it was a democratization of art where everybody could engage with some piece of wonderful art. And Pink Floyd jumped into that, and that, I believe, is the start of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that is, you know, if I had to sum up what is one of the greatest things about music, Dermot, I think you just covered it.
He's pretty good at that.
But I like, you did it effortlessly and you did it in 1 minute. Like, I think you did it.
Cody. Thank you.
That was very well said. You are
that's another drink I owe you when I meet you, Cody.
It's I don't drink, but I'll take a pop or a water, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that'll do. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Absolutely. I would love to. I would absolutely love that. Okay. So, Uncle Steve, what do you think about this album?
Corporal Clegg.
There you go.
No, this album, to me, huge change in the direction that Pink Floyd was heading. When it was released in '68, FM radio was just coming around here in the Los Angeles area, and I used to listen to a station called KPPC, and I'm sure, Matt, you've heard of it.
Yeah.
But they used to always play Set the Controls on it, and it was like, wow, this is really great stuff. And I went out and got the album and listened to the rest of it, you know, and immediately fell in love with the title track, "Saucer Full of Secrets."
Oh yeah,
just the album as a whole was just, you know, in my mind, very well put together, you know, for a sophomore album by a group that nobody even knew of. One thing about Pink Floyd, until later years, it was a group that everybody loved, but nobody knew who they were. Nobody knew the people in it.
Yeah.
Right.
The faces. Who are the faces behind Pink Floyd?
Right.
Nobody knew that for many, many, many years. But Saucerful of Secrets ranks up there, top 3 for me.
Wow, good.
Yeah, love the album.
Yeah, awesome. That's awesome. And that's true actually, because I never thought of that, Uncle Steve. But I'm looking at the album, and there's no names anywhere on it. No Roger Waters, no Sid Barrett, no David Gilmour, because this is David Gilmour's half, like his first record with Pink Floyd, right?
Right.
So anyway, there's no names on it. That's a good point to be made. Now, Matt, what do you think of this?
No, it was actually something that people talked about, wasn't it, Uncle Steve? Sorry,
yeah.
That nobody knew who these guys were.
Who the heck were these guys?
Yeah.
Which one's Pink?
That was discussed.
Yeah, which one's Pink?
And there was some urban myth that they walked through the audience at a gig and got up on the stage and started playing, and nobody knew who they were.
Nobody knew who these guys were.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, which one's Pink? That's a good one, Wayne.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so Mr. Matt Brown.
Well, this is top 5 Floyd for me, without a question. And it was, I got into Floyd gradually, but initially it was The Wall, and we'll get into that later. But Saucerful was one of the first of the earlier records that I heard. There was a compilation that had come out in 1983 called Works.
Oh, yeah.
And it had Set the Controls was on it. And at the time, this was, I guess, when I was like early high school, one of my longtime friends I met at that point in my life, and Floyd were his favorite band in the entire world. And so it was through him that I heard a lot of their earlier music. He was the one who said, "Oh, you got to check out this one and that one." And he kind of set me up, to be like, "Here, you got to hear these,"
He was kind of setting the controls for the Heart of the Sun, right?
In effect. I see what he did there. And Saucerful was one of the first early records that I heard based on his recommendations and based on the Works compilation. And I remember the first time I heard it, I had already been really intrigued by it because of the cover anyway. And that was the thing about Floyd. We'll probably talk more about this later, but I think they intentionally did that type of, well, we want the music to speak for itself. So It isn't about the personalities, which is why what both of you guys were saying about them not knowing, the audiences not knowing who they were and not really knowing their names and all of that. It was packaged in such a way that you focused on the music and you focused on the what they gave you as a package, rather than, oh, that guy is singing and he's the guy who wrote the songs and et cetera, et cetera.
It's the whole deal, right? It's
all about the music.
Yeah. And we've got Darren Brenner in the house here.
Oh, hey, hi.
It says, right here. Looking forward to a lot of expert opinions. Well, I don't know if you're going to get that here, but look what.
You'll get some opinions for sure.
Yeah, great album. Great album. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, everything on it. And it just real quick about Jug Band Blues. It's a haunting piece of broken psyche when you really think about it. I mean, it definitely makes it pretty threadbare what was going on with Sid. And Sid obviously had gotten into LSD and had gotten into some other things, but there's also a lot of talk. I've read a couple of bios on Floyd, and one of them indicates that a lot of people were dosing Sid when he didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And I know that went on a lot back in those days anyway. I mean, during that era when nobody really knew how potentially, on the one hand, eye-opening, on the other hand, dangerous this could be, right? So, but him being such a casualty of it makes me very sad. I think about Peter Green in that way too.
Yep.
And there's another guy from Fleetwood Mac that had the same problem. It serves as a, not to, push people one way or the other, but it can serve as a good warning to some people.
Yes.
Yeah. So all of our psyches are so different. It's hard to know how anything is going to affect a person. You just don't know. It's kind of a gamble. But
even if you know yourself really well, that's why I personally never got into any of that stuff. I just love the music, but it's like you got to know who you are, and even if you know who you are really well, you still don't know how you'll react to it. No. So it's this kind of
not worth the risk at all.
Agreed.
It's these casualties that were left alive rather than the people who passed away. I think were the most tragic of them all. Brian Wilson, another
right.
Sure.
There was a chap out of the Move who used to actually do acid with Sid Barrett, who went the same way as well. So a cautionary tale for us all, I think. Really.
Yeah. It was for me when I was a kid and I was reading up on Sid Barrett and all this stuff that happened to him along with his drug use. I'm like, I'm never touching that shit. No judgment to anyone who does. I've got lots of friends who've gone and done their thing. That's cool. I read too much about Pink Floyd to know that I don't really want to do that. But
but the music does take you there. That's the beautiful part.
Exactly.
So much of that album in particular is they knew. I mean, they were in uncharted territory, and you can hear it. You can sort of hear them finding. Oh well, I guess if we went in this direction, what might things evolve into? And so it's been a favorite of mine forever. I absolutely adore that record.
Yeah, for sure. I love it too. And of course the live versions of the songs from this that are on the Pompeii record are just totally fantastic. And I have to agree with you, Matt, that the music can take you everywhere you need to go. I absolutely agree with that. And just as a sort of counterpoint to what you were already saying, but so some of the live versions of some of the songs on this, I mean, they kind of didn't play a lot of these songs live generally after the fact. Like after Dark Side of the Moon, you don't really hear much of these songs, if any, from this album actually appearing in the sets live. When they were doing stuff like The Wall and then the Sound of Thunder, the live one from the late 80s. Like that's getting ahead of ourselves, but they don't touch this album very much.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame because even the trio band could have done these songs good justice. They could have done Set the Control. Well, not Set the Controls because that's a more or less a Roger song, but they could have done Saucer Full of Secrets or Let There Be More Light or something just to to counterbalance them doing Astronomy Domine at the time too, right? But great album again. If you're feeling funky. I mean, not in the mood for funk music, but if you're feeling in a different sort of mindset and you want to have a listen to something, then this is a good one to go for. And so, do we dare talk about this?
That one frightened me when I read
it.
I guess, hell with it. Let's talk about it. I know half of it's a live album, so we know that half is passable. Anyway, let's get into the studio stuff. Wayne, I know this is one of your favorite albums.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We were talking about Vandergraaf Generator yesterday on the Prog Corner, and their Pawn Hearts album was supposed to be like this.
I figured that out.
And the record label said, oh, hell no. and I think there's a reason. I think Yes did it perfectly with Fragile in the Yes album, where you have members compose maybe 4 songs, keep it to themselves. You can do what you want. But what really hurts this album is the fact that there really isn't the other band members playing with it. Like, they're not cohesive songs. They're just experimentation. And for me, it's really, really hard to get into. I know there's people who really love this song. Several species of small furry animals gathered together in a pict.
Not
Have you ever
me.
been to a pict? Not me.
Hey,
But
Ian loves it.
Grantchester
Ian loves it.
Meadows from the studio stuff is probably one of my favorite. Parts of the Narrow Way with Gilmore is pretty good. Sisyphus has moments, and so does the Grand Visor's Garden Party, but it just, as a collective whole, I'm just like, nope.
It's like Jim Carrey says in Liar Liar. It's a heaping pile of cow dung, right?
Yeah. I won't go that far, but the one thing I will give Pink Floyd is I think what really helped them a lot is the fact that they were an amazing live band.
Yeah. And
Kept them afloat for a long time. But
all right,
yeah.
so now that we've totally crapped all over this, spin it. What do you guys think?
But just one more thing, Cody.
Yeah, one
Sure.
more.
Are we going to be talking about the soundtrack album more?
That's up for you. You want to talk about it? Okay.
Well, I hope so. I have it here.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll include that. That'll be up next after this. So, Spin in Prague, what do you guys think of this one here?
It is what it is. I mean, the live album, the live bit is a nice little kind of document of them at a certain time. The rest of the album, I actually gave away my copy of that. It was great when I was.
That says it all.
It does. It was great when I was a teenager, and my mother would come into the room and go, "What are you listening to? This is going to talk to you." And I'd be going, "Yeah, it's really annoying my parents, and it's like driving everyone mad in the house." But after that, once I grew up, I was probably about, I don't know, about 25, about your age, Cody, and I was working with a guy, and he said to me, he said, "I really like that album." And the next day I came in and said, "Here you are, take it."
That's nice of you to do that for him.
Yeah, but it just meant nothing to me in the end. I think very true in what you said. Yes, nailed it on Fragile, where they took a song each. A lot of people kind of hate that about that album. I don't mind it at all. I think there's some nice moments in that. I think they also nailed it when they all went off around 75, 76 and did a solo album as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That thing on Omagoma is terrible. I mean, that's what I can say. Grantchester Meadows, okay, but that's bits of the Narrow Way, like you said, and little Mellotron riffs on Sisyphus, and that's it. Otherwise, and it is experimentation, and I think complete overindulgence by the record company. I think some producer should have gone in there, should have pulled these guys together and taken them outside and giving them a good seeing to with a baseball.
That's a good point to be made there, Dermot. Thank you.
But also, my dad had a story of he was one day listening to it, driving down a highway somewhere, and my uncle went, grabbed it out of the 8-track player, and threw it out of the car.
Yeah, well, that's what 8-tracks were meant for anyway. Those I have an 8-track player, and I got this Paul. Well, I actually have a Steve Hackett 8-track and a couple of others. I was playing a Paul McCartney one time, and I could hear like the other program, like it was the Ram 8-track, and I could hear the other program playing backwards underneath what the one I was listening to. I'm like, this is shit. Wow. And I took it out. Anyway, Tara, what do you think of this album?
My favorite thing about this album is the cover.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
The cover's great.
That's the one thing I regret about giving away was losing that cover.
Yeah, that cover is iconic. It's absolutely fantastic. I think the version of A Saucer Full of Secrets on it is quite good as well.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, I remember trying to listen to it and I just couldn't get along with it at all. I tried really hard now. Like I was really, really trying to listen to it. And I just, in the end, I had to just say it. I can't do this. And it's rare for me to do that. I mean, I love Pawn Hearts. Okay?
I was going to say.
And this Omagoma, I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
That's how I felt listening to the Plague of Lighthouse Keepers preparing for yesterday's show. I was like, I was driving and listening to this piece, and I like other Vandergraaf songs, as we figured out, but I listened to that and it's like, am I actually like considerably torturing myself right now? Like, is this considered like, man torture, and I'm doing this to myself? I don't know. But
my friends used to know I was bad when I'd be listening to a Plague of Lighthouse Keepers. They'd be like, don't go home now and put on a Plague of Lighthouse Keepers. Stay out of that headspace.
All right, Uncle Steve, we've really crapped on this. Do you have any differing opinions that could change the mood for this album?
Okay, obviously, I had loved Saucerful. So when this album came out, I went and got it. And my first glance when I'm looking at the titles, I'm thinking, what's this 4-part syphilis song? Before I took a closer look to see what it was. Anyways,
one and only time we ever had syphilis.
I really like the live disc. To me, that made the album. That, or I should say, saved the album, is having the live stuff, and I enjoyed listening to that because it made me realize what Pink Floyd had, when they were on stage.
Yeah,
which would a little bit different than the studio, obviously.
Yeah.
But the studio stuff, I couldn't get into. It just.
Yeah.
It didn't grab me the way Saucerful did, and I thought, oh man, I just hope this band, is able to shake this and move on. Obviously they did, but
yeah, better ones to come.
it was like, oh geez, is this another band that's gonna spiral down into themselves?
Oh boy. Yeah, well they managed to grow up and out, right? And that's why we're here today. Great commentary, my friend. Matt Brown, what do you think of this?
Well, I'm torn between pleading ignorance about the circumstances surrounding this album and completely like praising it, which is probably a strange thing to say, but the only reason I say that is because I have a hunch, and maybe someone in the comments can verify this. I'm going to go do some research on it too. I have a funny feeling that maybe the album was intended to be, because I'm looking at the copy that I have, and I don't know if this was the case in England, but it seems like the record was designed to mostly be a live record, and then the studio tracks were kind of a bonus. Now, I don't know if that's true.
I hope so.
I'm thinking it might be. That sounds like, I mean, this was also in an era where bands were often left alone. And obviously, for better or for worse, they were allowed to experiment, and they were allowed to try things, and whether they worked or not. And it was sort of like, and there's a famous Frank Zappa quote where he says that in the 60s in particular, the people who ran the record companies said, there's this weird music coming out and the kids seem to like it. Will it sell? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. And that mentality has been gone from the record industry since the mid-70s.
And that's the problem.
That attitude does not exist. That attitude allows for a record like this that is so bizarre and weird that you wouldn't see anything like that coming out unless it was put out on someone's, private label.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I happen to love the Several Species of Small Furry Animals, and I may be in the minority, but that's okay. I don't mind.
No, that's okay. I think Ian said he was a fan of that song too.
I think it's crazy. I adore it because it's just so freaking weird.
The Scottish bee.
Yeah, the Pict, just, oh my God. I love it. Yeah. That's great. And there's moments on the other two sides. I actually listened to the studio side about 6 months ago for the first time in probably 2 decades. And it hit me differently this time. I didn't love it, but there were moments of it that I really enjoyed. And I was like, all right, okay, here's a band. They're basically figuring out who they are in front of people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
they're figuring out the route they're going to take. And obviously, you know, the stuff that maybe this had to happen in order for us to get all the music.
And that is so often the case with these bands. You know, they'll make a first album or something that's not that good, but then they'll, you know, find their footing on the second and third and so on and so forth. I don't love this record. I love all the other ones here. But I don't love this record. However, I do like the live stuff on it. Right. You guys have pretty much already covered anything that I could possibly say on this, so I'm going to move on. I think we're going to skip past the More soundtrack because it's not really like an official album, and we're kind of already at 50 minutes on the stream here.
Okay.
So let's get to let's just go right to the. Yeah. We'll give it an honorable mention. There we go.
Yeah.
The movie that this was written for is super strange and super weird, and the music is kind of soothing, but it is pretty cool. Regardless, you know, we got the Nile song and stuff, so a nice plug for that one. But
Cymbeline.
First half of that record is great. Yeah. After that, it gets weird.
Yeah. Well put.
There's great live versions of Cymbeline around too, like especially unofficial circles, where they had a lot of cool spacey fun with that particular piece of music.
Well, they had some live fun with this one too. Adam Hartmother. They had they did it live with Frank freaking Zappa. You know, at one point that was really cool. Wayne, what do you think of this album?
This is. When you talk about bands after In the Court of the Crimson King that it gave direction to, Pink Floyd is the first band for me that always comes to mind, because you see Pink Floyd working with an orchestra, and I believe it might be one of the first sidelong suites out there of just sidelong epics. And to hear it, this is the album to me that announced David Gilmour is here as a guitar player.
Yeah.
Because listening to some of his solos on Adam Hartmother, Fat Old Son, his slide playing on If, just amazing. The great thing about this is that rhythm section of Waters and Mason had to be recorded all at once.
Oh, wow.
Due to, I believe in another live stream I was talking to somebody, they said because of EMI's strict rules about the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
So it had to be all tracked at once. And to hear that rhythm section and how complicated that was is phenomenal. But to me, this is the first album, and even the Strange Hypnosis cover of the cow, where you're like, what does this have to do with it? But it really makes you want to listen to it and say, well, I'll check it out. And it was their first #1 album.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really
a different
pushed them into a whole other direction. Rick Wright on this is phenomenal as well. Like, he is, when you talk about Amagama, the idea for that was actually a Rick Wright idea.
Oh, wow.
That he pitched to the band. And no wonder, I think after that you heard, I think the credits to Rick Wright got less and less for ideas. Probably because Roger probably had we're not doing that again. But it's a great record. Like, to anyone who wants to figure out like a great place to maybe start with Pink Floyd, I'd suggest right here. Because you get the spaciness of their early stuff on some of their tracks, but you also get what was to come.
Yeah.
Because you really found Gilmour.
That's a good point with this middle period here. That's
really asserting himself on this record, especially guitar-wise, and to me, great record.
Awesome. Spin in Prague, what do you guys think of this one?
I'm not going to talk so long on this one because I think I'm taking too much away from Tara, but I'll just say I really like this record again. This is kind of to me, it's not so much orchestration, but it's more brass. There's a kind of a brass sound on it. It reminds me of kind of Salvation Army bands, the north of England kind of thing. Very kind of cinematic Yorkshire kind of feel to this. Absolutely, it kind of evokes an awful lot. I find Pink Floyd kind of very cinematic, and when we go back to More, they're kind of trying to get back into song structure in some of More. And then in this, then they go back into the studio, and it's like every album is a completely different project. And what are we going to do with this one? Well, we're going to take it off in this direction. The piece itself, Atom Heart Mother, is absolutely fantastic. As I said, it's really evocative. It's something that I could just put on, listen to, and I could put it on again and listen to it again. Side two of it, If, Fat Old Son, Summer 68, Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, love them all absolutely great. There's nothing there that's kind of offensive, I suppose. I'm going to give it over to Tara and let her talk, because I've been going on too long with some of these other bits.
It's the excitement. The excitement does it to all of us. It's all good. We're known to be lovers of this crazy music here on Brockway's Vinyl Bites. So it's all good. Tara, what do you think of this album?
The actual suite, Atom Heart Mother, is another one I can remember hearing as a very, very young child. And
it's pretty sweet.
I heard it again when I was older, and that it like triggered that memory, and I was like, oh my God, I remember that. And I absolutely love it. This is up there as one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast as well would have been kind of my introduction to some weird tune, like. And in the actual suite, the ethnic singing would have been the first time I'd heard anything like that as well. So it was a big one for me sentimentally, because it introduced me to a lot of stuff.
Awesome.
And I love the cover. I love the cow.
Yeah. Someone said in the comments, that's a sexy cow. That's a good cow.
I saw that.
Mr. Linder said he's sexy, and Ian said that is one good-looking cow.
Somebody needs to talk to a counselor, I think.
A counselor. There you go.
I also want to mention that this is the first time, I believe, that also Pink Floyd and the great Alan Parsons got together as well on an album.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good point. Uncle Steve, what do you think of this album?
After their album Previous, I did not get into this album until later.
Yeah.
But when I did, I enjoyed it. And I have to agree with Wayne. This was Gilmour's breakout, where you could see where Gilmour was going, that he was going to be a force to be reckoned with as far as guitarists go. You could see the brilliance in his work, and this is one of the reasons why I enjoyed this album so much when I did finally hear it. I didn't hear this album until after Dark Side, because I was so disappointed in the album Previous that I kind of skipped over this album. I remember seeing it in the record stores, and I'm going, oh, Pink Floyd's got a cow. Oh my God, what next? So I'll leave it at that.
All right. But you came back around and you like it now, right?
Yeah. I enjoy it.
Sure.
The suite is, to me, just a phenomenal piece of music.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Matt Brown, what do you think of this album?
I didn't originally get it. I don't think I heard this album until much later. This and More, I think, were the last two Floyd records I discovered, and it was much after the fact. I don't even know why that is. I think I had read that the band kind of disdained it, so I stayed away from it, which I thought was strange. But I love it. Some of it's, I don't know where I'd rank it as far as my favorites, but I definitely enjoy it. And Summer 69 is fantastic. Or sorry, Summer 68.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. We knew what you meant.
No, Summer 68 is beautiful. I adore that track.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good yeah, that sums it up pretty good. I really like track 5, Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, just the sounds of the guy in the kitchen making food and then the band interspersed with the band playing. I think that is so weird. I've never heard that done before or since, and that's why it's cool.
That piece because I still hungry.
It's just how you can picture it all. This guy in this kind of apartment in Ladbroke Grove in London, and it's a bit kind of worn down. It's like something out of the movie Alfie or something. He's getting breakfast or whatever. It's just the whole thing is extremely evocative. That's what I find about it. Sorry, Cody, go on.
That's okay. That's okay. You're right. It is very evocative and it's very image provoking, right?
Yeah.
And it's but then you also got other songs like If, Summer 68, Fat Old Sun, which is probably Gilmour's breakthrough as a vocalist in Pink Floyd. That's the first time I've ever really thought about that. Mm-hmm. But he's actually, his singing lead is prominent here on this song. Mm-hmm. Of course, that would happen many more times. And of course, the introduction, the side long, Adam Hart, Mother Sweet. It's so, it's peaks and valleys. You don't need me to comment anymore. It's cool. I like that album. I don't play it much like I do this next one, which is going to be metal.
Yeah.
And before we get into it, Ian LaBelle has said, has anyone seen Nick's tour? Yes, I have.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. More on that soon. All right. Well, I think this is a great album. Wayne, what do you think?
I absolutely love this record.
Yeah,
start to finish. Starts with One of These Days, where you can make the argument, where would electronic music be without this song?
Yeah.
Like just hearing that double bass do 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 do, and then hearing Nick's drumming on it as well. Fantastic. Saint-Tropez is a song I really enjoy from this. Fearless Pillow wins. But in my opinion, one of the greatest songs Pink Floyd ever put on record, and maybe one of the greatest songs ever written, Echoes.
Yeah.
Just that majestic journey of something as simple as just a keyboard ding to start off the song, leading into Gilmour's guitar playing. You get the vocal harmonies of Gilmour and Wright together, which are always awesome whenever you hear. And especially the reemergence, like you get that weird section, you get the reemergence coming in to bring everything back, New Day, and then just bursts out into this crescendo. But to me, what really makes this song epic is that great interplay at the end, which you get at some ends of Pink Floyd songs, of David Gilmour and Rick Wright. Rick Wright just playing a keyboard passage, and then David Gilmour just following on guitar.
And did you notice that when it gets to that part, the drums actually become double tracked there? Listen close, and you'll hear, if you're listening on a good stereo, you'll hear another drum track coming in, and they're split left and right. Is really cool. I was listening to this the other day, and it's like, oh wow, I'm hearing this. Am I losing my mind? I'm hearing I think Matt's playing it. Oh yeah,
someone's playing it. It's not me. But...
I thought I was having a stroke or something there.
Same. I was like, oh my god, how am I hearing this?
It was inside my head.
That was good. That was good, Steve. That was good.
Yeah.
So Wayne, great commentary about this. My friends at Spin in Prague, what do we think about metal?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I have a bit of a history with this one as well.
Go for it.
Yeah, well, I knew this guy, and he used to kind of buy things, and he'd get real sick of them real quick, and then he'd sell them for about $2 or whatever, So he had this, and I said, what's that album like? He said, I don't know, it's just kind of rubbish. And I said, right, I'll give you a couple of bucks for a grand. Brought it home, put it on. Side one opens up, great. Love it all. One of these days, great track, great opener, great energy. It's the energy, it's the drive, and that's fantastic. But then I find that it kind of starts to lag a little bit. Starts to kind of go down through Pillow of Winds, Fearless, Saint-Tropez. I'm listening to guys kind of putting a few tracks together that are okay, but they're not really that interesting or exploring to me. And that Seamus on the end of side one just absolutely, I mean, So I listened to it and I thought, oh yeah, right, okay, I think your man might be right. And then I flipped it over and I heard Echoes, and it just completely blew my mind. It's the prog sandwich, isn't it? It starts with something, you know, that's kind of got some melodic thing to it, then it goes off somewhere, then it comes back into it again. The bit where it's coming back to that piece where you get the diddle diddle on the guitar, I just find. And this is like Gilmour is completely, you know, he's really showing himself on this. Absolutely astounding. But I went back to the guy and I said, what do you mean that was kind of a mediocre album and everything? I said, didn't you hear Echoes? And he said, no, I never bothered putting on side 2.
Oh, wow. I wonder what that guy's up to today.
But yeah, it's one that I keep returning to as well.
Me too.
But it's side 2 I keep putting on, not so much side 1. Okay, so Tara.
Yeah, right on. Great commentary. Thank you. And Tara, what do you think of this album?
Like I said in the stream last night, I love theatric kind of songs, and I'm very into performing arts and stuff. And when I heard One of These Days, I was like, oh my God, that is fantastic. It's got everything in it. It's got that real sound, and then it gets all the guitar coming in at the end. Oh my God, like fantastic. And when I first heard Echoes, that's when I really thought Pink Floyd are just their art, because they're so you can interpret their stuff in all sorts of ways. You can imagine all sorts of stories for Echoes, and it's this now I would say is probably my top Pink Floyd album, because I know it can kind of lag on side 1, but I can't get over how good One of These Days and Echoes is. They're definitely 2 of my top tracks.
Yeah, One of Those Days and Careful with That Axe.
Yes.
Like, they should be put together on something, and you know they were great for frightening my parents about what was going to happen to me.
I love that. And
and of course the Doctor Who theme song coming into One of These Days as well. It's brilliant, like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, great. Thank you very much. And so I guess Steve had left the chat, but now he's back. Hello.
Yeah, I lost the internet.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go Matt, and then we'll go you, and then we'll go me. Okay,
that's fine.
So, Matt,
yo,
how you feeling about this one, brother?
My favorite Floyd record, bar none.
Enough said.
I agree with Wayne. There's not a wasted note on this album. I absolutely love it, and we were talking earlier about Nick Mason. I'm so grateful that he decided to do a tour of the Dark Side music. It was a dream come true to see Echoes performed live.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't do Echoes when I saw him. Damn.
Oh my. Yeah, he did. I think it was like the first time around. I think he didn't do it. Second time around, he did, and I missed the first leg, and I said, I am not missing the second leg. Echoes was payoff, and it was like, oh my God, this is just. It was incredible, and
there's a film of them doing it on YouTube. Actually, we watched it, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the first time I heard Echoes was on. We had a late night. We had a Sunday album show here called The Seventh Day that Joe Benson did.
Yep, Uncle Joe.
Yeah, Uncle Joe, and he played metal one night, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I turned off the lights, and I listened to the first side. Thought, that sounds pretty good. It's pretty cool. And then he drops the needle on side 2, and I'm listening to Echoes in the dark at 11. 15 years old, going, "Oh Lordy, this is the scariest thing I've ever." And nothing was ever the same after that.
A turning point.
So there you go. That's I can't say much more about it than that.
I'm going to echo a similar, not to, pun intended, sure, but I'm going to echo a similar story in a couple minutes on that.
Okay.
Ian LaBelle saw them play Echoes, the momentary lapse of reason tour at the CNE.
Yeah, they
right
did
here in Toronto. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they did it for sure. That's right.
The CNE Exhibition Stadium is actually where this was. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
If you're looking for a great live version, David Gilmour live in Gdansk.
Yeah.
Where him and Rick Wright.
Yeah.
I think it was Rick Wright's last concert.
That was so good.
Mr. Steve, what do you think of this album?
Oh man, hate it. No, I'm kidding. I'm in the same boat with Matt. Absolutely my favorite Floyd album.
Well put.
This album has it all. And I remember when I first got it, I had to buy it again because I wore out side 2. Played it over and over and over and over again. Also a big fan of the song Fearless.
Yeah, me too.
I recently played that on my radio show, and that probably my second favorite song off that album. But it was said before, the album has it all. It's got everything you want in a great rock album, and I'm still kicking myself in the butt for missing out on the Nick Mason tour. And I know Matt knows about it because I was crying on his shoulder about it when he told me he went and saw it. And I don't know how that happened.
If it comes back, we gotta go.
I'm also one, and I had the opportunity many times to go see them. I have never seen Pink Floyd.
Oh man.
And I'm don't know why. The Pompeii recording is probably one of my favorite live recordings of Pink Floyd, and they did do echoes on it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Broke up into 2 parts.
Yeah, and I just loved hearing them do that.
Have you seen anyone from Pink Floyd? Have you seen Roger Waters before?
I've seen Waters twice.
Okay, yeah, me too.
And I want to say I've seen Gilmour once. I believe I saw him once. Yeah, Matt, he did play at Universal, right, Gilmour? Back in the day?
I know Roger did a few times.
Yeah, I've seen him twice at Universal.
Maybe Gilmour did too, like in the 80s, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. I would have to, research that, but
great album.
But I've seen the solo stuff, but never saw Pink Floyd as a group. And I remember a friend of mine at work said, "Hey, you should come with me. I'm going to see him over at the Rose Bowl when they did that big show, Matt."
Yeah, it was 94.
Yeah, and actually, my work is like maybe less than a half a mile from the venue. It's the Rose Bowl is where they play the Rose Bowl game. It's UCLA's home football field, big outdoor stadium, and I worked less than a half a mile from it. And the night Pink Floyd played, I was sitting out on my lunch break listening to him because you could hear him, from that far away. So that's as close as I got to seeing or hearing Pink Floyd live.
That's still pretty cool. I wish I could have seen Pink Floyd. Yeah. I never got to see. Obviously, they stopped touring before I was even born. But I really like this album, and I like every track on it. One of These Days, Pillow of Winds, Fearless, Saint-Tropez, Seamus, and Echoes. I'm kind of with Matt Brown. I don't know. Sometimes it's my number one favorite album, but I agree with him saying that there's not a wasted note of music on this. This is probably the first perfect Pink Floyd album. Many more to come in this pile. But first time I ever heard Echoes, I was in my old house in the basement at 1:00 in the morning listening to this. And it's like, wow, that's quite the ride. And another funny story is I used to work at, because only two of us are from Canada here, so I know Spin and Prague are from Ireland. You guys might not know, but we got a coffee shop, fast food restaurant out here called Tim Hortons.
Oh yeah, we know it. Yeah.
And it's a very Canadian, eh? But it's so I used to give them such a hard time. I'm not proud of this, but I used to like I would make them put on the classic rock station on the radio. Anyway, they put on Q107, which at that time had really cool Sunday afternoon shenanigans. It was called Psychedelic Sunday. They would play all this, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, not really psych rock, but they'd play a bit Grateful Dead and some of this stuff. You might even hear a Vandergraaf song once in a while. That type of it was very prog. No, they don't do it anymore. They totally suck now. But they they were very prog centric, and they used to do an album side every Sunday afternoon. These guys unleashed Echoes by Pink Floyd on a team of people who were, aside from myself, I was probably a teenager at the time, but it was mainly a good portion of the squad working at Tim Hortons was teenage girls who could not be further from Floyd fans, okay?
Yeah.
So I remember I was digging the hell out of it because I loved Echoes. I already knew I loved Pink Floyd, diehard fan, right? And but people were walking in the back, especially in that middle part where it goes back to the weird sounds that they were doing with the pedals and stuff. And I remember one girl going, "What the hell is this that's on the radio?" I'm like, "It's Pink Floyd." The next day I came in and the radio station was changed.
Oh,
No.
What a bitch.
I was saying to Tara earlier on. I used to go to. There was two cinemas within walking distance of me when I was very young, and one of them was the Regal Cinema. I used to go down to that, and I'd watch whatever they had on.
Yeah.
And I went down one time, and the first feature before the main thing came on was Pink Floyd at Pompeii.
Oh, there you go.
And I actually saw it, and this was before you had multi-screen cinemas. This was the huge big screen in the cinema, and the sound coming out through the cinema sound and everything. It was absolutely mind-blowing.
Spectacular.
Yeah, and every time I listen to Floyd, I kind of get this feeling of like sitting, that I should be sitting in some sort of a cinema chair in the darkness. This thing.
Watching the cinema show, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I love that music can do that. It has the capability of bringing you back to a place where you first heard this artist. It's like if you were, driving down a highway on a nice day listening to a Beatles song, now every time you hear that Beatles song, you're going to think of that time when you were driving down that road. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
That's a great connection you've made there. Now, I know we kind of tossed off more, but this is more of an actual Pink Floyd album, I'd argue. So I think we should keep this in here, Obscured by Clouds. And this is obviously the next step to the huge, big album that we're going to talk about in a minute here. But if we can get through this pretty quickly, because we're at an hour 17. So if we can, just rock right through this, then we can get to Dark Side and all the others and so on and so forth. Obscured by Clouds. I really like this album personally. Wayne, what do you think?
Fantastic record. You can tell that this is where they were going to go going forward. The Dark Side. This is a perfect transition album from metal to Dark Side of the Moon. You have
metal.
You have some really great stuff on there. What's the Deal? The Gold is in the Free For. The criminally underrated song Stay.
Yeah.
From this album. Mudmen, absolutely Curtains. Kind of told the fans, hey, what we've done before, that's great, but we're showing you the path forward of where we're going.
Yeah.
And
very well put.
That's pretty much it. And artwork for it, really good. Like, one thing I'll give Pink Floyd is I know a lot of people love Roger Dean. I'll make the argument that Storm Thorgerson has some of the most iconic images in progressive rock.
We're going to have a video coming on that way.
Hypnosis.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, that's well put. And when I went to the Pink Floyd exhibition, they had a big, like every room was mentioning, like all the artifacts were mentioning Storm Thurgerson, and yeah, more on that later. We're going to talk more about that later. But great input on that, Wayne. My friends at Spin in Prague, Dermot, what do you think of this album?
I absolutely love this album. I'll keep it very short. There's just a feeling of space across the album.
Yeah.
It's not one that I would, even pick out individual tracks on, because it's something I tend to put on, and I could be working on my laptop or doing something during the day, and I'll put this thing on, and it'll just like this sense of calmness comes over me with it. And I just absolutely adore it from start to finish. I think it's one that should be more talked about, really.
Yes.
More talked about. There we go.
Hey!
I agree with you. This is a great album, and no one's mentioned. I don't think anyone's mentioned "Free For" yet, but that's a pretty fun song.
Yeah, "Free For," "Childhood's End," the guitar solos by Gilmour. This was Gilmour's. I guess this feels more like the rest of the band's version of "Dark Side of the Moon."
Yeah.
Than what?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no, well said, Wayne. Yeah, very true. And yeah, I mean, Gilmour on it too is just like
he's happening here.
Yeah, fantastic.
Big time. He's really happening here. Tara, what do you think of this one?
Childhood's End, it's one of my favorite songs ever. It's one of those songs I can put on and I just feel great about the day. Like, I'll put it on in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to face the day. Like, definitely a very underrated album. And the cover, as strange as it is absolutely deadly. I love it. I'm gonna leave it at that because the time.
Well, no, I mean, because we're on the free version of StreamYard, right? So if we pass 2 hours, it just cuts us off. That's why. So, but I want you to still say I still want you to say what you have to say about the record. But "Childhood's End" is my favorite song too on this for sure.
Agreed.
Do you have anything more you want to say about it, Tara?
No, that's it. It's a great album. If you haven't heard it, check it out.
For sure. And subscribe to Spin in Prague too. Definitely. Check out Prisms of Prague, Spin in Prague. Obviously, you're here on Brockway's Vinyl Bites, so you're 1 foot in the door, but step all the way in and shut the door behind you. Matt, what do you think about this album?
It's a favorite of mine too. I mean, I can't really add to what anyone else has already said. I agree with everything so far. Childhood's End to me sounds like an early Time Blueprint. Actually,
yeah, I can see that.
Especially the do at the intro to it.
Yeah. Rich says Gilmour and Steve Hackett are my favorite prog guitar players. Yeah, me too. Me too. Alex Lifeson as well, maybe.
Alex. I love Alex.
Matt, do you have anything else you want to add on this?
Everything on this record is great. It's another one that I tend to prefer listening to in its entirety, just because of the flow.
Yeah.
Nice. Right on. Yeah, I agree. Uncle Steve, how do you feel?
Fine album, and I agree with Tara. Childhood's End.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it at that because I know we need to move on.
Okay, that's the only song from the album they actually play live ever from it. So,
wow, really?
Okay.
I agree with Dermot on this. I think it's just a great thing to just listen all the way through. You put it on the top, the top of the album, right, top to bottom. It's great. There's not any bad moments, like "Free For," like I mentioned earlier, and "Childhood's End." Of course, it opens up with that kind of haunting but beautiful "Obscured by Clouds," right? This is a great album. I've never seen the movie that this was written for, but it's a great album, "Obscured by Clouds."
And those actually were played live. I know there were actually 3 songs from the album that got live played. "Childhood's End" was the main one, but the "Obscured by Clouds" and "When You're In" also did get played mostly on the Dark Side tour. They tended to be like the openers to the show. And there's really versions of those on YouTube out there.
Hey, you know what? Matt just gave us an Easter egg and a segue because what comes after Obscured by Clouds? Well, this is probably an album that most of you were wanting to see us talk about.
I mean, this one?
Anyone ever heard this? Anyone ever heard this album? I don't think so. I think it's underrated.
Who is it?
Yeah, I think it's an underrated record. Okay, Wayne, what do you think about? I mean, what is there left to say that hasn't been said about this classic album?
Masterpiece. In my opinion, the album, not just Pink Floyd, but progressive rock in general, got mainstreamed with this record.
Yeah.
And I remember an interview they were doing with some audio guy once, and he said 1973 hi-fi stereos came in. There was 2 albums he bought. I think one was a Patti LaBelle album, and the other one was Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Just an absolute masterpiece. Alan Parsons' production on this is fantastic, and this is really where Pink Floyd finally realized their potential.
Yeah.
And Roger Waters' songwriting on it, just killer start to finish. Time, that song always makes me emotional listening to it because that solo in there. And I know I mentioned a comment once on Spin in Prague. Imagine if Robert Fripp and David Gilmour ever wrote a song together, how emotional that would be.
Yeah. You know, I got to add something to that, Wayne. When I met Steve Hackett, I've met him numerous times. I've interviewed him and such. I've met him many times. But one time when I met him about 5 years ago, I said, you've done an album with Chris Squire before. Have you ever thought about doing one with David Gilmour? And he said that the thought has been on the table, but nothing has really come to fruition of it yet. So I'm losing hope that it'll happen, but there's that like flicker of hope that they'll do it because it'll just be beautiful. Spin in Prague. What do you guys think about this album?
Oh God, this is where we go back to that kind of Englishness and kind of whimsy. And what we've got is this kind of, the world is changing. We can't keep up with it. It's kind of an album that's nostalgic for something. There's a searching in it. I love the fact too that none of the songs, I mean, this is progressive rock. Wayne, you're dead right. I mean, this is a progressive rock masterpiece, but it's not epic. It's not got some big epic song. It's got like these kind of pretty standardly constructed songs with verses, choruses in it. But there is an element in here, whatever it is, some sort of secret sauce that makes this thing work perfect. Yeah. Like one, you could take several of the songs, patch them together, or you could take the whole thing through and go on the journey through this album. It's amazing. Also, that Englishness of it isn't overpowering. There's also a nod towards Americana on this album, with backing vocals, kind of blues scales being used in a lot of the guitar soloing and stuff like this. So it's this kind of amalgamation. It's I don't know. It's unique. It's unique as an album. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So
Same here.
Yeah.
I agree with every word you said. Tara, how do you feel?
I have a very on and off relationship with this album because it was remastered when I was a teenager and it was played to death where I'm from. People who never would have spoke about Pink Floyd before started playing it to death. And the anniversary was last year, and The Great Gig in the Sky is still being played to death all over TikTok and everything, and it's driving me nuts. But I love this album. It's very thought-provoking, and it makes me very emotional, especially Us and Them. Really had a big impact on me when I first heard it. I was quite young. I'd say I was about 13 when I first heard it, and I I never forgot that feeling that I felt when I first heard it. I'm getting emotional now talking about it, lads. Oh my God. No, I'll stop. But absolutely beautiful album, and really, really just one of those things that's a quintessential record you need to have in your collection. Absolutely.
Agree. And a lot of people start out with this. Like a lot of people when they get into collecting vinyl, this is one of the first ones they get because it is such a vinyl album. More on that in a minute.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you think about this album?
I've never heard it. There are people who haven't, and I was like, wow, okay.
They're not cultured though.
Actually, it was one of those records that I heard everything on it before I knew who it was or that all the songs were by the same band and on the same album.
Well, that spoils it.
That was a wild experience to have happen. The first time someone sat me down and played it, I realized I knew everything on it. And this was when I was about 15 years old. Okay. And I bought it the next day immediately. Brain Damage Eclipse is fantastic. I mean, the whole thing's great. And it's interesting that for Floyd, you know, it went beyond the culmination of all the things they had dreamed about in terms of becoming, you know, a successful / lasting band that, you know, and nothing was ever the same for them after that.
Yeah.
It was very, like from in the trajectory of their career, it's really like, it's such a huge turning point.
And what's interesting is the fact that these guys never sold out and took a mainstream approach after this. If anything, they just kept on the trajectory that they decided they were going. While this was going like, you know, quadruple freaking diamond, right? Like they just kept going in the direction that the band wanted to go, and they weren't like, okay, we're going to start writing pop songs now. I mean, sure, some songs have more accessible parts to them, but it's like as a whole, it's still the same image. It's still the same idea that the Floyd had all along, right?
Well, they had a lot of trouble figuring out how they were going to follow this up too. I mean, I don't know if they came close to splitting up after it, but there was a bit of, oh God, now what do we do?
I think they came through pretty good.
They did.
Didn't they contemplate making an album with no musical instruments in it, just hitting household appliances?
Yeah.
They were going to do that. That's right.
Yeah.
Uncle Steve, it's your turn.
How did we miss out on that one? It would have been great.
What album are we talking about?
We're talking about this thing. I don't know if you've heard it before, but
the Triangle album. Okay.
Yeah, you've heard of Genesis.
You know,
before, right?
there's not much I can add, except that whenever I listen to it, I always want to listen to it from beginning to end, because for me, it took me on a journey. You know, from the first notes of Speak to Me, you know, all the way through to the end. You know, it was like, you know, I always felt it was a journey, and it's an album that you have to listen to from beginning to end.
Yeah,
and
big time.
You know, at least in my little opinion, you know,
I agree.
Yeah.
Really, really, really a great album. You know, obviously cemented them, you know, in the annals of rock and roll. You know, as to where they stand, you know.
For sure. And
album spent the longest time on the charts.
Yeah.
700 and some odd weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might still be on there. I don't know, but yeah, this is.
Well, I know after it came off, it came back on, and then, you know, it's been on and off 2 or 3 times. You know, but you know, there's nothing else I can say. You know, it's the dark side. You know.
It still sells thousands of copies worldwide per week.
Yeah.
To this very day, and they're remixing it, and they're finding new ways to bring it up and enhance it and do all these things that they can do.
Why just not the Roger Waters version?
Oh yeah, no, we forgotten all about that. But I want to talk a bit about the new mix that came out in the 50th anniversary box. There's a Dolby Atmos surround mix, and I kid you not, I've never heard music like that before until I heard this album remixed in 11.2 Dolby Atmos surround sound. It is possibly the most incredible music listening experience that I've ever personally experienced, and I've experienced very many amazing, great listening experiences. But this album, it continues to, and this isn't, you know, this is not even necessarily my number one Floyd album, okay? But this album continues to break barriers, and it continues to push forward throughout all these years, and it is still, you're still finding new things to be influenced and inspired by from this album. And I mean, even like Tara said, people who aren't typically Pink Floyd fans probably own this album, but that should just be a testament to how great it actually is. I mean, it does get played a lot, but it's a timeless classic. And my kids' grandkids will be listening to this, and someone 100 years from now will still be discovering the greatness of this album. So I could actually go on, but I think I'm going to spare you guys. And we're going to move on to the next one. Wish You Were Here. Incredible follow-up. I love it. More on that soon. Wayne, what do you think of this album?
How do you follow up a masterpiece with another masterpiece? Right. And to me, this album I actually like more than Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Is it from the first note? I told Cody off air, the first time I heard Pink Floyd was 2002. I was doing a school project and I was going through albums, going through my dad's CDs. Didn't have very many around, but I came across this greatest hits called Echoes, the best of Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Oh yeah, foot in the door.
And I put on, the CDs somehow got mixed up, so Blue was kind of in spot one, so I thought that was the first disc. First time I heard Shine On You Crazy Diamond, I'm like, what is this? Completely blew my mind, started me on like 3 years straight of listening to nothing but Pink Floyd. Yeah. And David Gilmour is the reason I decided to actually pick up and learn to play guitar, because his guitar on that is phenomenal. Rick Wright's keyboard playing as well. You have Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Welcome to the Machine is a awesome song.
Agree. It is a fantastic album.
Have a Cigar, that great opening riff. Just and then the guitar solo at the end, fading, just cutting off, like just bam, it's done. You think, what's going on with my stereo? And then all of a sudden it fades, goes right into Wish You Were Here, the song everybody knows. And then goes right into Shine On Crazy Diamond with the amazing, and I'll say this, I think two of the most criminally underrated slide players, Ken Hensley of Uriah Heep and David Gilmour.
There you go. Some Uriah Heep love, a pocket full of Heep in this house, right? That's a great story.
That slide and the great interplay at the end, like Echoes and on Shine On Your Crazy Diamond, between David Gilmour and Rick Wright. They just had an amazing chemistry together.
Agree. It is fantastic. Spin in Prague, what do you guys think about this?
Well, I think we've gone from, with Dark Side of the Moon, we're looking at kind of something that is part of the human condition, which is processing yourself and your place in the world. And what we have here is much more of a kind of autobiographical view of where these four people find themselves at this point in time. Absolutely incredible. I think this is, I'd find this very related to Echoes. I think, Wayne, you hit the nail on the head there. I think, it's almost like an album-sized version of Echoes, because it's got that sandwich again. With where we go with Wish You Were Here, and then we end again with, we start with Shine On You Crazy Diamond, we go to Shine On You Crazy Diamond Part 2 at the end again. Welcome to the Machine, fantastic, really ominous track. You can imagine who they're dealing with, these kind of corporate bodies and everything. One of you spoke earlier about the kind of corporatism that became more involved with things when we were talking about Omagoma. And here we can see that corporatism is starting to come up in the record business, and these guys are running head on into this thing. So they're meeting like this machine. They are being, they're meeting these gangsters with the kind of have a cigar thing. And of course, like there's the shadow of Sid hanging over there, and how they started as these naive kids, and how they wish that there was some way that they could get back to those kids. And I don't think it's just wish they were here for Sid. I think it's how they wish that the people they were here.
Yeah, for sure.
Without all the trials. I think it's a fantastic album. Packaging, cover, everything fantastic about it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, some of you are saying, "Oh, this is my favorite Pink Floyd album," or "This is my favorite Pink." I can't really pick one out. They're all, they're all just different projects that are fantastic in their own ways. But this is an amazing piece of work.
It is great, and we're at the hour 40 mark, so we're gonna have to blaze through some of these. But Tara, what do you think of this album?
All I have to say is this is one of my favorite Hypnosis covers. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my favorite album cover of all time.
They set him on fire loads of times, and he eventually had to say, "I'm not doing it anymore." And "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," absolutely beautiful song. Will always be very emotional to listen to. "Wish You Were Here" is played to death over here again, which is amazing. But sure, look, that's all I've got to say.
Right on. Well, yeah, it's all the same here. Same here. And Matt Brown, what do you think of this album?
Those 4 notes say it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. It says it all.
I think we all love this album.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne was talking about how Gilmour was the guy that inspired him to play guitar, and Rick Wright's definitely one of my biggest keyboard heroes. Just the way he puts things together and his sense of space, sense of texture, the little jazzy inflections he puts in, all that stuff. So
awesome. Agree.
My friend, I'll leave it at that.
Uncle Steve, what do you think of this album?
Favorite album cover of all time, and once again another album that you have to sit down and listen to from beginning to end, because it takes you on a journey.
Probably the most saddest Pink Floyd album, somber albums to listen to.
I think I agree with everything that everyone said here. This is one of the first ones that I ever got into. Just every track, top to bottom, is just fantastic. And I think that needs a Dolby Atmos remix as well. Of course, I got the Immersion Box 5.1 surround sound from about 10 years ago. It came out, and it is excellent. And now we are going to go on to what is typically my number one favorite Pink Floyd album, Animals.
Woof, woof.
If we've only got about 18 minutes left to go, so we still got to. I don't know how we can talk about this in only 18 minutes, just this one, but we'll manage. Wayne, what do you think about this album?
My number 2 favorite Pink Floyd album behind "Wish You Were Here." Fantastic. A darker, a more moodier album. You really see Roger starting to present a lot more of his political ideas into the band, and this is, at least for me, this is the last hurrah of the Roger Waters era with Pink Floyd. It really, from beginning to end, it's a masterpiece.
Agree with you.
Dogs is Gilmour, Waters, even Rick Wright. Some of Rick Wright's most sinister keyboard playing is on this album.
Absolutely, I agree. And some of their best compositional pieces together too, right?
And one of my all-time favorite Pink Floyd songs, "Sheep."
Oh yeah,
that ending. But Roger's vocals and how he held some of those notes for how long he did, I'm still in amazement.
Yeah, it is great. It is amazing.
Yeah, on to Spin in Prague.
Spin in Prague. What do you guys think about this album?
Very dark album. I remember getting this when I was kind of in my later teens. Somebody again gave it to me. God, I seem to get loads of these things. But I remember lying in bed at night with headphones on, listening to it, and it was a kind of chilling experience. I absolutely love it. I mean, it is what it is, and it's in that kind of dark part of the soul. But the two of us went to Battersea in London last summer, and we spent a lot of time at the power station there. And I remember going down on the bus, and it just went past Battersea Dogs Home, and then you get to Battersea Power Station. And I remember just that line: every fool knows a dog needs a home, a shelter from pigs and the wind. And we went past the Dogs Home to the power station several times as we were going to. But it's a fantastic album, but much darker. And we're seeing Roger Waters really kind of pushing his agenda a lot more in this thing. Not much hope for humanity on it, I'm afraid.
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely, with your point about the lyrics. Tara, what do you think about this album?
Well, it's dark, so I love it.
Yeah, I love it too.
Like Uncle Steve was saying about the last two albums, it's one of those albums you've got to listen to from start to end to kind of get the message. I think it's definitely one of their best albums too. But that could be me being biased. Hey, Scott!
Hey, we got the Prog Corner in the house, man. Yeah, but the Prog Corner is one of the best channels on YouTube, along with Sea of Tranquility and Spin and Prog and Pocket Full of Heap. And maybe Brockway's Vinyl Bites too. I'm not going to give myself that kind of plug, but we love the Prog Corner much. Hi, Scott. There he is. Get him. All right, Mr. Matt, what do you think about this album?
To me, this is the last great Floyd record. I like a lot of what came after, but this is another one that I have to, just like everybody else said, got to play from start to finish. Yeah. And I wish it weren't still as relevant as it is.
Yes, well said. Yeah, well said.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Right on. We're gonna move on to Uncle Steve now.
Real quick, short and sweet, start to finish. Yes, another album. That's the one thing about Pink Floyd. You know, a lot of their music, you need to look at the body. You know, when you sit down with Pink Floyd, it's not, oh, I just want to pick this one song and listen to it. No, listen to the entire album.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all good. Animals, and I know you guys are going to hate me. Not one of my favorite.
That's a shock. I don't hate you for it. It just shocks me.
Yeah, I love Pink Floyd. Love most of their stuff. For some reason, Animals just, I don't know. I can't tell you why. I just,
I hear you on that, Uncle Steve. Sometimes when I listen to it, I'm left feeling a certain way that I don't really want to feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain, and I just hope, somebody can understand that, much as I love Pink Floyd, Animals doesn't sit there at the top like some of the other albums.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm not really like the reason I'm a big fan of this album is actually for the musical points of it. I'm not a political guy by any stretch. I don't really care about political stuff. And so if you look beyond some of the lyrics, if that's not really your thing with this album, I really like the music on it. Musically, I think it's one of their strongest records. Just taking the lyrics out of the question and just talking straight up about the music. But I love this album very much. I've played it. I don't even know how many times. I think I probably drove the people at Tim Hortons crazy with this album. When I would play my own music, I'd put this on repeat over and over. I love it. And now another album that has been on and off my favorite Pink Floyd album. I know Wayne loves it a lot, so we're going to give him we still got to keep it a bit short. So, but I know Wayne's got some things he wants to say about this one. The Wow.
Not anywhere near my favorite Pink Floyd album. I think the high moments are really high, but I think there's so much filler on this album. I get what Roger was trying to do, and I think it would have come across better as a Roger Waters solo project. But that being said, Comfortably Numb, Hey You, Mother, The Trial, there is some really great tracks. The first version of what is it? In the Flesh and Empty Spaces, Young Lust, absolute must listens. But after that, like, I sent Cody a link where I'm like, of reworking the song structure of this album to try to get a narrative, because I think narratively it doesn't work. It hits a point where it's like going from okays in this kind of like comatose state into all this World War II stuff, and I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah, I get it. So where does it sit for you? Not near the top, eh?
No, I'd say kind of around 7, 8, maybe even 9 for me in their discography.
Spin in Prague, what do you guys think about this album?
I really like it. It was, you know, I'm the worst guy ever for ranking. I can't believe the way you guys can rank these things, because, you know, especially, you know, sometimes I watch this ranking of King Crimson and I can't rank any of their albums. I think they're all
Today it might be number 1. Tomorrow it's going to be number 4.
Right? Yeah. But no, I really find this really, this was my kind of introduction to Pink Floyd. This was the time that they were around. This was very culturally relevant when I was in my early teens. So it had a big effect on me. And it was a journey of trying to understand it. So I get what you're saying, Wayne. There's something in it that will always be vague and hard to kind of get your head around. But what you're looking at, you know, when I said Wish You Were Here was kind of autobiographical, here we've gone right into kind of almost self-psychoanalysis of Roger Waters to a point that we've gone really deep into it. And it's there will always be that black box of the mind that we can't really get to. But I do really, really like this album. And again, it's another one that I'd put on and kind of play from start to finish again.
Awesome. Yeah. Great comment.
And I still say to this day, Goodbye Cruel World should have closed that record.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, God.
Sarah, what do you think of this album?
This was my introduction to Pink Floyd. Another Brick in the Wall used to be played on a music channel quite a lot when I was a kid, and I remember the music video absolutely terrifying me.
What, with the children going through the meat grinder?
Meat grinder. I was like, what? But as I got older, then I started to see the relevance of it. You know, there's a lot you can take from this and apply to things that go on in Ireland. I won't get into it, but politically, I take parts of this as like great, and then parts of it are very like, oh come on, like, you know. In the Flesh, I think, is a very powerful song to open an album with. Absolutely brilliant. And I mean, I'm going to shut up now or I'll be going on for ages. But I do really like this album, and I think it's very thought-provoking and one that everybody should definitely have a go with.
Me too. I agree with you. I agree with that 100%. Matt Brown and Mr. Steve, what do you guys think about it? Matt?
Well, it was my first entry into Floyd too. I was 9 when it came out, and I had it pretty much from the get-go, thanks to American Top 40. I'll tell that tale at some other point. But I kind of grew up with this album. Yeah. And it hasn't aged very well for me, but I do think that it is an incredible piece of work. It's not something I go back to very often. I think in the same way that, you know, Animals is very dark, this is dark in a whole other way, and almost too much, but the highlights are amazing. Goodbye Blue Sky, Hey You, Comfortably Numb, Run Like Hell, In the Flesh. You know, like the highlights are fantastic.
For sure. Uncle Steve, how do you feel about it?
Roger Waters' answer to Tommy.
Brilliant.
This was Roger's Tommy. telling the story from start to finish. And I think everybody else has said it. My favorite Pink Floyd song, and probably a lot of other people's, is obviously God, what's
Comfortably Numb.
yeah. I just had a brain fart there, guys. But
Two of the best guitar
this album has my favorite Pink Floyd song. Gilmore on that guitar just sings for me.
Yeah. Same for many years. This was my favorite Pink Floyd album. I could listen to this over and over and over again. I love it very much, and I love the concept. I love the whole everything about it. I'm sorry, Wayne. I love the whole thing. I love it as is.
It's all good.
I love the movie too. I know I'm weird, but that was my introduction to Floyd, so that's kind of probably why I have a different opinion on it, right? But The Wall, definitely. And an album I don't like very much. It's my least favorite Pink Floyd album, The Final Cut. But does anyone have any words for this?
I think it should have been a Roger. You could tell it wasn't going to go well when David Gilmour would rather work with Atomic Rooster, Kate Bush, and everything else than work on this record.
Yeah. Does anyone have any commentary on this one?
No, I remember when it came out after The Wall, it was just a big disappointment.
We won't go too far into this one then. We'll move forward.
But yeah.
We'll move forward. I really like this album. Some people have a hard time with this one.
I love it.
This for me is probably their most criminally underrated record. I know people hate 80s production and sound and that, but I've always said, where did you expect Pink Floyd to go in the 80s at that point?
That's true.
And I think the first half of this album is 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Where'd your dad go, Tara?
He's gone to the toilet.
Okay.
Just a fantastic album. Sorrow is one of the best album closers in Pink Floyd's discography.
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite albums. I love this album, and Matt Brown plays Sorrow a lot on Deep Nuggets Radio.
One of my favorites.
Maybe I'll join you in playing that song one of these days. Who knows? But
who knows?
I guess your dad doesn't like this one too much, eh, Tara?
Yeah, he has all their albums apart from Ummagumma up to The Wall, and after that he doesn't have any.
Well, I'd recommend to listen back at this one because it's a very good album. If you guys haven't given it a listen,
I must say I really loved Learning to Fly when I was a teenager. I really loved that song. So yeah, I do quite like this album a bit myself. I'm not sure what Dad's view is on it now. He'll probably kill me for saying that, but
on the Turning Away is maybe one of David Gilmour's best vocal performances. Like just listening to him sing that.
Yeah. Very powerful song.
We're gonna go for the last one. We were gonna talk about Endless River, but this is kind of the last official Pink Floyd album.
Oh yeah, Drive that as well. Sorry, he's gonna kill me.
Anyone love this album? I freaking love this thing. I do too.
A lot. Top 5 Pink Floyd album for me.
I enjoy it.
Odie, I love your models you have behind you. The Vision Bell thing. That's so cool.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think this album is great. I think these two are kind of more like David Gilmour-ish solo albums, with this one being more Floyd lenient, but it's still great. They all have great.
I had high hopes for that album.
Wearing the Inside Out with Rick Wright being his last song he sung in Pink Floyd gets me emotional at times listening to it, especially that line when Dave comes in and says, "And you can take the words right from my mouth." It's fantastic. High Hopes is, if any band was to ever go out on a song, if they should have ended it at High Hopes.
Yeah.
That was the perfect ender for their career.
Yeah, I agree. I love this album too. Well, I mean, I feel bad that we kind of had to rush the 80s albums because I think these are worth talking about. But I don't want the StreamYard to give us the boot. So, we're at an hour 58. So I'm gonna have to pay for it so it doesn't cut us off. But hey, you know what? Typically, we don't rush out of these things, but we managed to cover all the Pink Floyd albums. We got some good commentary here. So for people who are trying to get into Pink Floyd, this is a good video to watch. And I really appreciate you folks at Spin in Prague coming to hang with us for a bit.
Great for having us.
Thank
Brilliant.
you so much
Yeah.
for having us on. We're honored, absolutely honored.
Well, I love you guys and what you do on your channel. It's absolutely fantastic. So
Thank you.
And of course, Pocket Full of Heap with Wayne is great too. Go subscribe to Spin in Prague and him, and listen to Deep Nuggets Radio on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and you'll hear Matt Brown, Uncle Steve, and maybe a surprise guest on Thursday nights. More on that later. Hey, to my Californian friends, Matt and Steve, thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Good to see you guys. Thank you.
Much love.
Always
Maybe
a pleasure. Cody.
Maybe I like this panel. Maybe we'll link up again next weekend or something and do one. If
Oh yeah,
y'all want.
Cool.
We'll work something out. Okay.
Mhm.
Hey, it says we're still going live.
We can rate the Bay City Rollers albums. How's that? Oh, come on.
It says we're still rolling. So if you guys want any more commentary on any of these,
All I say is I love the Division Bell. To me, it was a complete album. It was a great album. Just like Wayne was saying, a lot of wonderful stuff in there. I really love Marooned. I mean, a lot of people don't, but
I like
Marooned was probably one of my favorite songs off that album.
Yeah.
Coming Back to Life is another amazing song, like where it kind of said to the Roger fans, like, we're doing this. This is us. And I think, in my opinion, I believe Polly Sampson wrote a bunch of this record. I think she wrote a more concise concept album than Roger Waters did.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Because the whole thing about Division being pulls apart, and just Great Day for Freedom talking about civil war in Yugoslavia, and that was really great. And then just ending it with high hopes. Like, Dave Gilmour's vocally is probably one of the most underrated vocalists.
Sorry, Wayne, I got to tell you that YouTube chopped us.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so I'm going to end the stream.
It wasn't